Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining today's Office of Economic Opportunity monthly call. Please note that all participant lines will be muted until the Q&A portion of the call. At that time, I'll provide you with instructions on how to ask a verbal question. You are, however, welcome and encouraged to submit written questions during the presentation, and these will be addressed during Q&A. To submit your question in writing, please select the Participants menu at the top of your screen and opt to Send Note to all presenters. If you're logged in using the web-based application, use the Notes function on the lower right-hand side of your screen and address your notes to all moderators. If you require technical assistance, send a note to the AT&T CES operator or call our help desk at 1-888-796-6118. With that, we turn the call over to Deputy Chief Chris Webb. Chris, please go ahead.
Hey, everybody, and thank you, Tegan. It is that time of the Office of Economic Opportunity monthly phone call, so thanks for tuning in. We will be providing the PowerPoint slides to this presentation, so no problem. Your email was captured as long as you entered it when you logged on. So you can just sit back and enjoy today's presentation, grab your fidget spinners, and start spinning. All right, so here we go. So today we're going to be talking about some microloan program updates. We're going to talk about Prime, and we're going to be doing some drill down on Community Advantage. We're going to be talking about variable interest rates because the market's changed. It hasn't moved very much in the past 5 years. So, but with moving interest rates, we've got other considerations we need to take into account when working on our notes and preparing things for the secondary market. And by popular demand, Mary Beth is back to help us with that. And we're time for our biannual Chris Boyd OCRM reporting, which is, he's here, he's ready to go. Matter of fact, we're going to probably go to him first after I do a little housekeeping for microlending, and then we're going to talk about 1502 training opportunities coming up in the future. Well, so there we are, microloan program updates, and unfortunately Dan couldn't make it today, so again, I will fill in. And let's see here. We are going to be talking about grants in microloan. Right now, we are processing your grant applications. They came in as they relate to the microloan grant, and our analysts may be reaching out to microlenders for conditions and or things that are needed. Please try to respond within 72 hours. We are on a deadline this year with the continual resolution happening so late in the year. We really are pinned against the wall to get these done, processed, and put them through grants management and over to Denver so that that money will be available for you. So please, please, please respond as quick as you can. And if you are submitting data to your analyst as an update, do keep in mind the SBA has a 10 megabyte limit per email. So if you see that it's 12 megabytes, try to cut it in half and send it in 2 6-meg packets, and then that way it is guaranteed to be received. And when you do get that notice of award, after everybody's done the work, please double check that the grant amount does match what we sent you a few months ago as your award, and please read the terms and conditions, all pages of your grant. There might be a few different things coming up this year for you to take a look at. All righty. Loan funds are here, sports fans. Microlenders, if you need another loan, the money is here. So please submit. When doing so, please send a pipeline report to your analyst along with the request. Since we're right near the end of the quarter, you could add it to your quarterly report and ask for that extra loan. Keep in mind, our new maximum loan amount can be $2.5 million now, as long as you don't exceed our total cap of $5 million. But do keep in mind, you do need to have used at least 75% of the last loan in order to receive the next loan and make it available. So if you're at 73, 74, 68%, I'd go ahead and send it in, because by the time we get to it and get it approved during grant season, you will have probably used 75%. And as always, you got to be in compliance. But we already know that because it's grant season, and we talked about that last month. And an exciting time. It's a time that I know Anika Brown is excited about. It's the Prime Grant season, and she is back with us, and she is going to be working with us on Prime this year. It is up in grants.gov. You have till June 16th, which is a Friday, to get your application in and get it submitted. I know that some people have asked a few questions. If you do have a question, you can send it to prime@sba.gov, and we will do our best to answer it. It should look amazingly familiar to Prime 2016 because, well, it is just like Prime 2016, except that it's Prime 2017. So we're still going to be doing the bonus points for re-entry population, co-ops. So take a look at the Prime Grant application. You still have plenty of time to apply. Now, at this point, I would have jumped over to Mary Beth, but we're going to help out Chris Boyd, who has another engagement, and we're going to jump ahead using the power of technology to slide 11 and say, Chris, how are you doing, and welcome back. I think we talked near the holidays, and you gave us some great informative information of what's going on in Oakland. What are we going to be doing today?
Well, today we're going to go over the quarterly and mostly the annual reporting requirements that are required for all the community advantage lenders, and just briefly talk about the quarterly reporting, and we'll, I think, go over more of that at a later date, if I'm not mistaken, because that's a little more detailed than the annual. Just for those who don't know, quarterly reporting, I don't know if anybody's online who has not submitted or not funded any community advantage loans yet. The quarterly reporting is only required if you have at least one loan funded under the community advantage program. And those quarterly reports are typically due within 45 days of the end of the quarter, and they should get uploaded to the DX Open site, which is www.dx-open.com. And if you don't have everybody should have somebody in your organization that does have a username and access to that site. If you don't, feel free to send me an email, and I can get you set up on there with the username so you can access the site. So we'll just talk a little bit about the annual report. The annual reports are due within 120 days at the end of the fiscal year. And these are basically the reports that are prepared by your auditor, and should include the balance sheet, the statement of income and expenses, the reconciliation of capital accounts, sources and uses of funds, any footnotes that are provided, and it should, of course, have the auditor's opinion. One thing that we also require, which has gotten a lot better this year, but we still have some auditors that have neglected to include this in the audited report. The auditor should include an assessment of the community advantage lenders' compliance with the loan loss reserve requirements. All the lenders that have loans outstanding, when they have those loans outstanding, there's a loan loss reserve requirement that is required for each loan, and I think it's 5. I can't remember exactly. It's 5% of the unguaranteed portion, and 3% of the guaranteed portion if it's has been sold in the secondary market. And the auditor should calculate the required loan loss reserve amount, verify that those amounts are on deposit in a separate account, and that separate account should be appropriately named, and the appropriate naming for that would be the lender's name, and then it should say SBA Community Advantage Loan Loss Reserve, or it can just be abbreviated CALLR account, and that would be sufficient. And the auditor should also verify that the deposits to that account have been made within 45 days of the funding for each CA loan, and no later than 10 days after the loan has been sold into the secondary market. And once all those things are verified, they should have a statement. Typically it would be in the footnotes that says the lender has complied with the loan loss reserve requirements of the Community Advantage pilot program.
Okay, great. We'll keep moving on, but I want to take a quick check here. Does anybody have any questions at this point of what we covered? Because we had a couple key dates given out there by Chris in regards to your loan loss reserve, how it should be titled, and the important days of 45 days after the loan is made and 10 days after the secondary market. You need to have those funds in there. Is there any questions on that from anybody there? I thought I saw a hand come up, Tegan, or were they just testing me?
I think they were just testing you because they went up and then went back down again. But if you would like to ask a question, you can always dial #2 on your telephone keypad, or if you're using voice over computer, select the raise hand emoticon. You'll receive a notification when your line is unmuted, at which point please then state your name and question. You can also still send your questions in writing by selecting the participants menu at the top of your screen and opting to send note to all presenters. And if you're using the web-based application, you'll need to use the Notes tab on the lower right-hand side of your screen and address your notes to all moderators.
Aha, an excellent question just typed in right on cue. Chris Boyd, what is your contact information?
Christopher.Boyd, B-O-Y-D, at SBA.gov.
Excellent. So that's Christopher.Boyd at SBA.gov. And when in doubt, you can always reach out to Anika Brown or Robert Karasak or myself, so we will get you in contact. Oh, and look at this. We started the question bonanza, Chris. This is awesome. Is the amount driven off of the gross loan or the dispersed amount for the loan loss reserves? We got some smart questions here. That's a good one.
It's going to be the dispersed amount. So if you make 3 disbursements, you can fund it within 45 days of that disbursement. If you want to do it all at once, if you're making say a $100,000 loan and you're disbursing it in $25,000 increments, you can fund that account based on advancing the $25,000 disbursements, or you can do the whole thing at one time, and then you don't have to worry about keeping track of it after the future disbursements.
And we've got a hand raised. So for our first person, Tegan, let's go to the phone lines.
Caller, your line is unmuted. Caller, check to see if your headset's muted.
All
right. Apparently they don't have a question.
All right. Well, we'll take it back down. And if you want to ask that question, type it in, go right ahead. Sorry, we couldn't get you in on that headphone. But great questions here. And, Chris, you got some more for me, right? Nope?
I'll just say one other thing is that the director of OCRM, we get requests like every year for extensions on the annuals, and the director of OCRM, Office of Credit Risk Management, is not inclined to grant extensions after the 120 days. So try to keep that in mind when you're talking to your accountants and so forth to get those in. We extended it a year ago from 90 to 120, and with the hope that would reduce the need. pretty much any longer than 120 days, the information gets less and less useful in terms of financial information.
All right. Well, again, every month we're going to try to give you a little nugget from everybody. So do you have any more questions for Chris? I jumped ahead here on our slide. You can tell when we get to our Community Advantage 1502 reporting, Victor will be talking to us from Colson Services with a webinar coming up in June. So we're very excited about our 1502 reporting, and that's all part of staying in compliance and Community Advantage. So we're going to use our way back machine and jump to the beginning of the slide. Here we go. The question came in. Excuse me. And it is the 7A LLR balance based on the amount of the current principal balance, or is it always tied to the original loan amount?
Oh, it's the current balance.
The current balance, your loan loss reserve, is based upon the current balance of your loans.
Right. So if you make a $100,000 loan and it's paid down to $50,000, then you're only required to have $50,000. The loan loss reserve only needs to be calculated on the $50,000.
And that'll be all part of your quarterly review.
Yeah.
So you're going to be doing some review for your portfolio management, and then Chris will dot the I's and cross the T's to make sure you're getting everything right. But as you can see, he's very friendly and always available for questions. And speaking of which, do we have any more before we let Chris go? Because he does have another appointment, but he wanted to make sure we answer all the questions you might have for Chris right here, right now. Once again, Chris, I think you may have knocked it out of the park. You got everybody enlightened in record time. So we're going to go ahead and let Chris get away. But again, if you want to get hold of him, it is Christopher.Boyd@SBA.gov, and it'll also be part of the slides. Oh, wait a minute, Chris. They got you. So we're gonna put them back down. And it says, if the guaranteed portion is bought back because of default, does it still need to be included in the LLR?
Yes, until it's finally wrapped up and closed out.
Okay.
But there may be instances where there's going to be a repair or denial, so that's taken into account. So if he sold the loan and then it's been, or I should say, it's been charged it off, but it's still in the, I guess, collection problem, is not charged off by SBA, so to speak. It still requires to be accounted for in the loan loss reserve.
All right. And a follow-up on that, does the loan loss reserve pertain to what is on the balance sheet, or does it reduce when the loans are sold to a secondary investor? So basically, does the loan loss reserve pertain to what's on their balance sheet, or does it reduce when the loans are sold to a secondary investor? I think I got this one. Let me see if I got it right. When you do your quarterly analysis, you've got a loan loss reserve basis if the loan is on the secondary market versus you holding it. There's a different percentage. Isn't that correct?
Well, there's two different percentages because you have to. But I think I know what they're talking about. Is this because they're saying, like, if it's a $100,000 loan and they sell 75% guaranteed portion, they want to know whether the 25% is all that we count for the loan loss reserve, and the loan loss reserve is based on the entire loan amount, not just what you've kept after the sale of the guaranteed portion.
Right.
So there is a couple instances where I've seen, people had say a $100,000 loan, they sold 75% off, 25% technically is what's on their books.
Right.
And they use that, but the loan is really a $100,000 loan, so it has to be based on the full amount of the loan, not just what's kept on the books.
Full amount of the total loan balance. All righty, fantastic. I tell you, they got some great questions. So once again, I'm going to see if Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Chris to stand up and walk towards the door and see if there are any other questions. Now you guys should time this out right. As he gets to the door, go ahead and ask another question because this is good. I want to see how many times we can get them. So last chance for any questions for Chris Boyd before he walks out the door. He's at the door. His hand is on the doorknob, and he is escaping. So the opportunity to talk to Chris has now closed, but you can get him by email. And thanks again, Chris. Thanks for coming by, and we'll talk to you again real soon. So now we're going to activate our way back machine. I'm going to slide these right back to here, and I'm bringing in Mary Beth. Now, you all remember Mary Beth from a couple months ago. We talked about the secondary market and all the exciting opportunities on the secondary market. We had so many great questions and so much feedback from you that we brought her back, and we're going to talk a little bit about variable rates because the market's changing now, and it's just not a standard flat rate. And you know, Mary Beth has been doing this for how many years now in the secondary market?
Gosh, almost 35.
35. So you started when it was the primary market. Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right.
I got one of the first certificates.
Excellent. So there you go, people. So this is put the fidget spinner down and get ready to ask questions. This is it. You have the oracle right here, right now.
All right, so thank you so much, Chris. I think I touched on this a couple of months ago when I gave the presentation to all of you that we are starting to see changes in the prime rate. And for those of you who sell loans in the secondary market or make variable rate loans, even if we just take those of you that make variable rate loans and perhaps will sell them in the future, any kind of change in the prime rate means a little bit more work for your back office or for your operations division that handles the payments coming in from the borrower. So we can see here that in December of 2015, December of 2016, and then most recently in March of 2017, we've seen quarter point increases in the federal funds rate, which is then translated into the same quarter point increases in the prime rate right after the Fed funds rate changes, usually the prime rate changes. And if we look at the Fed minutes that came out, I think it was last week, it looks like we're going to be due for another increase next week. All right, so we're going to have an increase in June as well, and it looks like it's going to be a quarter point. So every time that happens, that means that the interest rate, if you have a variable rate loan, that means that the interest rate changes on your variable rate community advantage loan. And if you do not take into account the change and the loan is sold, that can lead to reconciliation issues with our fiscal and transfer agent, which is Colson Services. So we've got to make sure that every time the prime rate changes, that you are changing the rates on your loans that are tied to the prime rate. One of the issues that we've seen, and we've seen this a lot with all kinds of lenders, so not just community advantage lenders, but also, even our big lenders, we've seen reconciliation issues pop up because the lenders are not including the date of the first rate adjustment on the loan's note. So that happens because it's not clear. The broker-dealer who's handling your sale thinks it's one thing, and they represent that to Colson on the documents, and yet the lender thinks it's something else. So the lender is relying on its own system, and they end up floating the loan differently than the secondary market expects the loan to be floated. So because we've seen this so many times, we have now gone back and we are now enforcing the requirement that there has to be a date of first rate adjustment on the note. If that is not there, you can go to the next slide, or wizard. And starting on May 1st, if that is not there, if the date of first interest rate adjustment is not included on the note, either as an absolute date, such as July 1st, 2017, or as a description of the date, which would be the note will have its first interest rate adjustment on the first calendar day of the following of the calendar quarter following initial disbursement. If it's not a description like that or something similar to that, we will not accept the loan in for sale. And when I say we will not accept the loan in for sale, we will not accept the loan in for sale. There are no exceptions to this. If the note has been constructed already without this language, without a date or description of a date, we are then we are requiring that there either be a modification to the note that is signed by the borrower that will include this information on the date of the first rate adjustment, or there has to be a new note executed. And honestly, we don't like executed because then you have to show us evidence that the first note's been destroyed. So we don't like that, and you probably won't like that either. So we would need some sort of modification or amendment that is signed by the borrower. If absent that, if we don't have that, we will not process the loan for sale. Okay?
All right. So we don't want you to not have access to the secondary market, so we just got to get the notes right done first. Again, this was brought to you because of the great questions you asked a couple months ago. And, Mary Beth, like Chris, are all available all the time. So if you have more questions on this, you can ask now and, of course, email later.
And the final slide here on my part is our policy, SBA's policy on variable rate loans. And you can see here it's Section F, interest rate requirements for an SBA note. And the most important part here for our discussion is Part 2 for variable rate loans. All those things listed, A, B, C, D, E, and F, those are the requirements for a variable rate loan. If those requirements, if they are not all listed in the borrower's note, we will not take the loan in for sale. And quite frankly, you should always have them there anyway, even if the loan is not being sold, especially when the loan is sold. If we do not have A through F listed in the note, we will not take the loan in for sale.
So again, worth pointing out, this is only if you do a variable rate loan, an adjustable rate loan. I know many of you do fixed rate because that's part of your mission and reaching out, but we do know that with the market changing, we've seen other 7A lenders encounter this, and they do many more loans than a lot of our mission lenders, and they too have been tripped up by this. So we wanted to take a minute to reach over and grab you and ask that question. So I'm going to check here very quickly, and this may affect the slides. I want to see if there's any other follow-up questions. Give me 1 second, because I've gotten quite a few questions. Let's see. We had a few more come in. Chris may have escaped earlier. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see. How do we know when we will make the first adjustment?
Well, so when you construct a variable rate note, you will have an initial interest rate period. And that initial interest rate is based off, there's a big long explanation for it, but it's based off the base rate at the time of the application, the time the application was made. And you have to state it in the note. If you're using a regular SBA Form 147 or anything even similar to that, you would have to address in the note, you would have to state in the note when the initial rate expires. And the day that the initial rate expires is the date of the first adjustment. Now, I know that you may not have the exact date, which I always call an absolute date, so there may not be anywhere in your note for you to state, because you don't know when it's going to be dispersed, for example. You may not be able to say with all certainty that the date of first adjustment would be, for example, July 17th. But what you would be able to say is it will adjust on the first day of the calendar quarter following initial disbursement. That you can say. Or you can say something similar to it. It will adjust on the first day of the calendar quarter following the note date. Or it will it will adjust. The date of first adjustment will be the first calendar day of the first month. You will be able to say something like that, and that is a requirement. You can't get away with making an SBA loan without addressing, if it's a variable rate loan, without addressing when the loan begins to float.
So as an example, if my rate changes on the first calendar quarter following the change, and the rate changes on 6/15 of 2017, then my note rate would not change until 9/1?
Well, so you've got a note date of and a disbursement of 6/15, if I understand that.
Right.
Okay. So if it's floating on the calendar quarters, which most of our loans do float on the calendar quarters, you would float them on July 1st. Okay. I'm not sure where the September 1st is coming in, but you would float. You're not doing quarters. You're usually doing calendar quarters, and the calendar quarters are January, April, July, and October. If you're doing just something other than that, for example, a quarterly based on, let's say you dispersed in August, and you're going to do the first quarter, you're going to float it quarterly as of the first month following your disbursement, then you would be dealing with, September, 9/12, really bad at this, 9/12, how many was that? 12 plus 3, 15, which obviously don't do 15 months. But it's on the odd quarters. Yeah. We don't usually do them on the odd quarters. Usually most loans are done on the calendar quarters, which are January, April, July, and October.
All right. And somebody asked, will quarterly or semi-annually basis suffice as a descriptor for the adjustment period? Quarterly or semi-annual basis, will that suffice as a descriptor for the adjustment?
The descriptor is going to have to be calendar quarterly. You've got to have the word calendar in there. It has to be calendar quarterly. And for semi-annual, you are going to have to describe the semi-annual. I mean, when I think of semi-annual, it's January and July, January 1st, July 1st. Those are the calendar semi-annual dates. But because semi-annual is translated by people differently, it's understood by even lenders differently, we would ask for an actual date for the semi-annual. So if you want semi-annual payments in February and August, right, with the 6 months in between, then we would need to see that actually expressed in the note as February and August.
And, the nice thing, guys, is if you are a little confused about this, there's Mary's email, and as always, Anika and Robert here in OEO are available. So if you're developing your first adjustable rate note and you're just not entirely confident about it, let's be proactive. Give us a call. Give us a shout. We're here for you. We'll make it happen. So one more. To clarify, can hard dates be stated? First date adjustment in 12 months from the note date?
Yes.
Yeah, hard dates. Hard dates are practically preferred. It's much cleaner.
Yes.
So, that's the way to run. Let's see what else we have. We are currently setting up SBA CA notes with variable rates. Who should we contact to get some guidance or confirmation that our note processes are good before we go live with the change?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right there. Mary.Kerrigan at SBA.gov. You also go right to the Oracle. Again, Anika, Robert, myself are available. But, the bottom line is you want the option to be able to take advantage of the secondary market. And, as Mary Beth said, she has been here for quite some time, and she can address right down to the nitty-gritty any of the unique situations you may come up with. So do keep that in mind. Take advantage of us as a resource. Oh, here's another good question. How long is a rate float period? And are there any white papers on guidelines?
Well, I would say that the best white paper would be the SOP, right? The SOP, our SOP 5010, does a pretty good job, if not too good a job, because it gets very deep into the weeds, about all of the requirements and the examples of variable rate notes. So to me, that's your white paper.
How long is a rate float period?
Well, I mean, a rate float period, if it's quarterly, it's every 3 months, right? So if it's monthly, it's every month. So if you're floating monthly, you're going to adjust your interest rate on the first day of every month. If it's a calendar quarterly adjusting, you take a look at the rate every day on that first day of the calendar quarter. So,
and what was that SOP again?
5010.
5010, the SOP 5010.
And it's on our website.
It's right there on the website. Yep, 5010, that was the question. You got it. You know, it's too bad you didn't ask that question before the holiday. Nothing could have made the long holiday go better than reading the 5010 or possibly getting a copy of these slides. It sounded like 6010, but it's 5010.
Yeah.
So there you go. So it is some great questions coming in. And Mary Beth, you've covered a lot. Is there anything else you're kind of seeing on the secondary market that's been tripping people up here? I know I'm just hitting you off the cuff here.
No, I will say there's one other thing, and that thing is community advantage lenders have to be very, as all of our lenders, but the reason I think about community advantage is that I've seen a couple in the last month or so that have been hit with late payment penalties. And that means that they have loans sold on the secondary market, and the payments that you get in from your borrowers are due to our fiscal and transfer agent, Colson, on a specific day of the month. And that's all contained in the 1086, which is the contract that the Community Advantage lender signed when it sold a loan into the secondary market. If the lender, if you're late in getting your payments to Colson, you are hit with a rather substantial penalty, and we cannot waive those penalties. So I've seen a couple. One had contracted out their work, their reporting, and their remittance work to a larger bank, and that larger bank is going to eat the penalty because it was their fault. However, there was one Community Advantage lender that we could not waive it for, and I don't like to do that, obviously, but we have no flexibility. But I think that what they said is that they just read the 1086 a little bit more carefully. They would have realized that those payments were due on a specific day, and if the date of the month, and if they weren't there at Colson by that date, that they were going to get whacked with a penalty. So that's really the only other thing I am seeing. All the other documentation that I'm seeing coming in from Community Advantage lenders has been good.
Well, that's awesome because they're asking some great proactive questions. Excuse me one second. And, they're asking some proactive questions. And, we did have the previous PowerPoint slide could be available. You can send us an email, and we'll send it to you, which was pretty much everything you wanted to know about the secondary market and afraid to ask, but it'll reinforce it. But, guys, you're about to sell that loan on the secondary market. You saw the webinar. You read the SOP, and you still have a question. Mary Beth, there she is. Just send an email. She'll make sure you get it right because she does not like to charge those penalties. It made her sad. It wasn't good. It was not a good day in Mary Beth's world when she had to do that. So let's avoid that. And Mary Beth, can I contact you? Yes, you may. Right there. You know what? You can even call 202-205-7552. Somebody wanted to know the SOP you're speaking of. Now, this is a person that loves the SOP. You ready? Were you talking about the 5010-5? Looks like
whatever the most recent one is.
Whatever the most recent one is. There you go.
This is Onika, the most recent version, 10.5I, as in India.
If you have the H, it is now a collector's item.
Correct.
That's good. You can, save it, maybe put it on eBay later. I'm sure somebody would want to collect that. That would be pretty exciting.
I actually have a question. This is Onika. is there a relationship between mistakes on 1502 reporting and either late penalties or challenges with loans sold in the secondary?
Well, the 1502 is the instrument that you use, the form that you use to remit the payments. So if we have mistakes on the 1502, if there are mistakes on the 1502, and we cannot apply the payment, if we cannot process the payment, then there is a chance that you will be dinged for a late payment penalty. So we do have a relationship there. For example, if the breakdown of principal and interest does not equal the total amount remitted on the payment, we can't apply the payment. So unless we can get very quick, a very quick correction on that, there is a very good chance that the lender would be whacked for a penalty and we would not be able to waive it.
Which is one of the reasons why we are insisting that all Community Advantage lenders have at least one representative on the upcoming 1502 training session that's happening. There was a method to my madness answering that question.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. We're going to come back to that. We're going to bring that slide up in just a moment. However, a couple more questions coming in fast and furious. I'm going to read the SOP very slowly because, no, I cannot type it in, but it's the 50105I as in India. So that is the correct SOP. And somebody wanted to know, what is the source for the current prime rate? I'm a big Wall Street Journal.
Mostly it's the Wall Street Journal. We can no longer say that in our documents. So you're going to notice, if you read the SOP, you're going to see that we don't say Wall Street Journal except as an example. But the Wall Street Journal is really where we go for prime. And you can also get it off of Bloomberg. If any of you have Bloomberg terminals, it's also on Bloomberg. My understanding is that also the Federal Reserve publishes it as well. I think that's the www.federalreserve.gov. But most people, it's just so easy to go to wallstreetjournal.com, and you go to their money rate section, and the first rate that they list is prime.
There you go. All right, and let's see. Some more questions coming in. Once the loan is sold in the secondary market, and if the borrower wants to pay an additional payment, that's fine. That just goes right onto your 1502 report.
So he's making it at the same time as the other payments? I mean, the only reason I'm asking is that sometimes we hit a situation where both payments are remitted at once, and that's fine. They can either be remitted as two separate payments, representing 2 months' worth of payments that would cover interest, for example, from January 1st to February 1st, and then February 1st to March 1st. We can handle them that way. The other way we can handle them is that if they bundle them together, and they take interest to the date of receipt of the payment, and then apply the rest to principal. We can take it either way.
All right, so there you go. The option is up to you. And that's another great question to bring back to next month's presentation at the 1502 reporting. Because, again, we want you to have as many options available as possible. I'm going to hold here for a second for people to write down christopher.boyd@sba.gov for any of your quarterly OCRM reports and annual report questions. And again, his phone number is 202-205-7549.
And we are going to have some more in-depth OCRM reporting training. We're going to do that possibly in July or August, but just we know that you have an upcoming reporting. You have upcoming report to do in July, so we'll try to have an in-depth session by then, but just know that if you need Chris to assist you with reporting before then, contact him.
All right, and we go right back here. And this is what Anika was talking about, and I let the cat out of the bag a little early. We are going to follow up on June 27th with a Community Advantage 1502 reporting. And one of the things that will be covered is, let's say I've got 2 payments. How would I want to address that? Oh, and and somebody said, activate the way back machine because they weren't done giving that information. I am going to send these slides out, so don't worry, nobody misses this. I know the weekend's coming up, and no better way than to enjoy the PowerPoint slides of our monthly OEO call. But again, that's Christopher Boyd at SBA.gov and 202-205-7549. Again, Christopher Boyd, and then just put a dot in the middle. Nobody else at the SBA has a super secret agent email like I do because I'm Chris Webb, but I go by James.Webb in the email world. That's because I get to be a super secret agent here at the SBA. So I get a super secret email name. Kind of cool. So we're going to run back here to the very end. And Anika, why don't you tell us all the great things that Victor is going to be covering and some of the exciting things that will be going on once we get this 1502 reporting going in June? Because I know you had a couple things you said earlier. Maybe bring it back in here right now.
So first of all, we're going to do sessions like these at least twice a year. However, every Community Advantage lender must have at least one representative on this call. It is preferable that the person who is directly responsible for preparing the 1502 report listen to this call. Why? Because we take you through the 1502 dashboard, and if that does not sound familiar, you need to be on the call. We take you through the format of the 1502 report. We take you through common errors that occur during 1502 reporting. We also take you through common issues such as, I have two payments, how do I report it? We take you through what happens if you missed reporting. We also take you through who do you need to contact at Colston. We give you a lot of information. So this is one of the reasons why the call is a little bit longer than most. It is an hour and a half. But we'll try. We do pack a lot of information in. We will leave a lot of time for questions at the end, but definitely make sure that someone from your office, preferably the person that is responsible for the 1502 reporting, somebody has to be on this call.
You know, and this is all about being proactive, so you don't have the situation that Mary Beth talked about that made her very unhappy and charged a penalty. We don't ever want to see that happen. We know we have a particular way we like to do things, so, you know, please note that this is Tuesday, June 27th. This is not replacing our OEO call. So one person can attend this very important 1502 reporting training, and then somebody else can come on over to our monthly OEO call. We don't want you to miss any one of them. They're all very important, and we're trying to give out information here proactively to avoid any issues. And Anika's right. We want every CA lender to have somebody represented at the 1502 reporting. Make sure we proactively address anything coming up, especially in this new and changing adjustable market. But this is our last slide, and we are going to open up to questions. So, Tegan, if you could remind them again in case some people don't like typing and maybe they got their fidget spinner in their hand and don't want to put it down to type and would rather be on the phone. Could you remind them how to phone in a question and you guys type them in?
You can ask your questions verbally by dialing #2 on your telephone keypad. Voice-over computer users, please select the raise hand emoticon from the top toolbar. You'll receive the notification when your line is unmuted, at which point please then state your name and question. Also, you can still write in your questions by selecting the participants menu at the top of your screen and opting to send notes to all presenters. And if you're logged in using the web-based application, use the Notes tab on the lower right-hand side of your screen and address your notes to all moderators.
All right, and again, we've had some really great questions today. I'm hoping this is a great benefit. We will be sending out the PowerPoint to this. We do have your email captured when you logged in, so that we'll be sending out the PowerPoint later on today. So we're going to go one more time and say, do we have any questions out there? Again, you have the oracles here. You have Anika and Mary Beth. They are going to answer all of your questions as they relate to CA right here, right now. So if you have it, please go ahead and ask. Or again, just, use your phone. So we'll give it a minute. And I didn't see anything pop up, so I'm going to say thank you again for your mission and what you do in the lending across the United States to the underserved markets, and for your time today. I know it's valuable, and we're very happy that you were able to attend with us here today. So with that, I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much. Thanks for attending, and we'll talk to you on June 27th, which is a Tuesday at 2 o'clock for 1502 reporting. And as always, we're always available via email or phone to answer any of your questions. Thank you for attending.
Thank you to our speakers, and thank you all the audience for joining us today. This call has concluded, and you may now disconnect.